Hello friends, this is Terry from the Frugal Connection. I wanted to talk to you today about Moong Dal. One of the recipes in my new cookbook, Simple and Nutritious, is a recipe for Moong Dal scramble. It's under the breakfast recipes. And basically what Moong Dal is, it's a green gram bean that has been soaked and de-skinned. And so then it turns into this yellow split type pea, and you can use it to make various dishes. So one of the dishes that I have made it for is a breakfast dish, and you basically take however much of the Moong Dal you're going to use. So in the recipe that I have in my book, it's 1 cup of Moong Dal, and you cover it with water and soak it overnight, and that is it up enough to then blend it. And then the next morning when you get up, you're going to drain your water. You're going to add 2.5 cups of water to the 1 cup of Moong Dal in the blender, along with your spices and all the things that are in that recipe. And you blend it up on high until it's basically it's a pourable consistency. And then what I'll often do is saute onions and garlic or peppers in a saute pan, and get those nice and translucent, and then I will pour in my Moong Dal mixture and then start to scramble it. And basically that's what happens. It begins to turn or resemble scrambled eggs. And towards the end I will add in some diced tomato, some spinach, or some kale. It's really whatever you want to do. But I did want to give you a little bit of a tip of what this is called. It's organic Moong Dal is what I purchased, and I bought this on Amazon because I did find it in my local grocery store, but it was a very small package, and it also was very expensive. So it was much cheaper to get on Amazon. I will link what I purchased down below in the description box so that you can get an idea and see what it's about. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of Moong Dal, and I hope you try it and let me know if you do. You can. One of the things that I use in my recipes that are in my new recipe book, Simple and Nutritious, is chickpea flour. And it's basically graham flour, it's called, but it's ground chickpeas. And this is what I have purchased. And I actually bought this off of Amazon, but apparently I need to learn how to read the description box better, because I ended up buying a 4-pound bag of it, and I'm not sure I'm going to use it that much to do that. It has a very different flavor. It's actually kind of pleasant once you get used to it. It's not like a regular flour, so it does give things a different flavor, but I love to use this in things like my falafel that's in my recipe book, because it calls for either all-purpose flour or the chickpea flour, but because you're already using chickpeas in falafel, it made sense to use this. I have used this in my oat muffins in the morning. I like it. It does take a little bit to get used to, but I just wanted to show you what it is. You can also find it in some grocery stores. I found it in my grocery store, but sometimes these specialty items are much more expensive. So I went online to Amazon and I found it there. So I will link the description to this below. Thanks. I also want to talk to you a little bit about some soy products that I use that you'll find in my cookbook, Simple and Nutritious. The first one is just regular tofu. Most of us are familiar with tofu. Some people have a negative view of tofu, but this stuff is just amazing. And let me tell you why. If you want to use it in a stir fry or something like, and those applications, or sometimes you can slice it and marinate it and just bake it a little bit, or saute it in a pan. Probably the extra firm tofu is what you're going to want to use. There's another kind of tofu called silken tofu, and that, to be honest, when I first started this journey, I did not really think there was that much of a difference, but silken tofu is wonderful to use in things like dressings, because you don't get that little bit of that grittiness that you would with this. and it gives everything like this nice, wonderful, creamy texture. And it's also really good to use in some desserts. Now, I have not tried that yet, but I have heard that it makes awesome desserts. So that's next on my list of things to try. The other thing is tempeh. And I buy this, and my first experience with tempeh was years and years ago. I had homeschooled my children, and I found a recipe for this honey baked tempeh, and I do not know what I did wrong, or I had a really off brand of tempeh, but I made this, and I gave it to the kids, and they're starting to eat it, and they're like, "Oh, Mom, this is so disgusting. I can't eat this." And I just thought they were being normal children, and I'm like, you guys need to learn to try new things. So I put my fork into the tempeh that I had baked. I lifted it to my mouth, and the scent just about, I had to have been a really something that had gone bad or something, because it was terrible. And so for years and years and years, I never tried it until a friend brought me some that she had made, and it was so delicious that I decided to try again. So this is one of the recipes in my book, is you can use either the tofu or the tempeh to make, you just make a wonderful marinade. You cut this into cubes. This has much more of a meat type consistency. If you're looking for that chew, this is probably what you would want to use. I have discovered a trick with tofu that I did not know. If you take this kind of tofu and you just pop this in your freezer overnight or for a few days, thaw it out, it changes the entire consistency and texture of the tofu. It becomes much more firm. It also kind of acts like a sponge and will just soak up whatever marinade you're putting on it. So and it doesn't quite have that normal tofu, like if you're using it in a stir fry or something, it has a tendency to crumble and fall apart, and it will hold its shape better. So that's my tricks about tofu and tempeh. Another soy product is miso. And miso can be found in most stores where you find like the soy sauce and things like that. And basically this gives everything this wonderful umami flavor. I will use this quite often in some of my dressings because it does give it a depth of flavor that you wouldn't otherwise have. It is salty, so if you're trying to restrict salt, a little dab will do you. Don't use a lot of this. The other thing I use is low sodium soy sauce, but I just heard something the other day from one of the Kikkoman founder or CEO or whoever, that the low sodium soy sauce is basically just regular soy sauce with some water added. So if you find that the low sodium is more expensive, you can always take the regular soy sauce and just cut it in half with water. It's the same thing. It'll do the trick. It'll be less salty. And then the other thing is tamari, which is also a form of soy sauce. It's fermented, but it's just a really rich, deep flavor. And I really like this one too. So those are my soy tips for you today. And I hope you have found this helpful. Thanks.